I have a saying that I quote a lot, which is be your own best health advocate, but it really is be your own best advocate. Have that vision that you can create the life that you want, and it's never too late, ever.
Hello, dear listeners. It's that time again when we stroll through the paths of ambition, desire, and success. Welcome to the Dare to Declare podcast, where we explore the enchanting world of giant manifestors who turn their visions and goals into the stuff of legends. I couldn't help but wonder, how do some people create the lives they've always dreamed of? Is it the magic of manifesting, the power of perseverance, or perhaps just a dash of serendipity? Well, dear friends, grab your coffee cups because we're about to spill the tea on fascinating journeys of those who dare to dream big and make it happen. Join me as we sip on success stories and ponder the ever-enticing question, can we all manifest our dreams into reality, or is it just an urban fairy tale? I'm your host, Debbi Sluys, and I'm here to guide you through the labyrinth of achievement with heart and soul. Ready to dare to declare? Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. You're in for a real treat. You know why I say that? Because this is going to feel like you're listening in on the bedroom talk of two girls. We're going to spill the tea here and really get into talking about stress, sleep, and sexuality. And I have an expert. Her name is Camille Lawson. She helps women reclaim their vitality and confidence by tracking the profound effects of stress on health, weight, and relationships. She has over 30 years experience as a nurse, psychotherapist, health and sexuality expert. She brings a holistic and compassionate approach to the women's transformation. I'm just really excited to introduce you to Camille and my new friend that we recently met. And welcome, Camille.
Thank you, Debbie, and thanks for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited for our conversation.
Me too. So, stress. Let's talk about stress. I know that you have had stress within your own life. You've had many challenges. Do you want to talk about why, with the first S being stress, why that's important for us to pay attention to and how you maybe awakened to it yourself?
That's a great question. And I'd love to talk about stress because what many of us don't realize is our stress hormone, cortisol, when it's out of balance. And I think, Debbie, you and I can probably agree that in maybe most women we know it's out of balance. It's either way too high or it's way too low. It happens just because of life circumstances and all the things that we have in our current society and culture. But cortisol, when it's out of balance, actually affects every other hormone. And that's a big deal. In the health world, we call it dysregulated cortisol. Let's just call it stress out of control. And it affects everything because our hormones actually rule us. We have over 50. It's not just the main ones that we think about, like progesterone and testosterone and estrogen, of course. But when even one's out of balance, it's like a symphony. And all of them get out of balance. So then women are wondering, why can't I lose that weight? Why can't I sleep? Where did my sex drive go? Where's the brain fog from? And my answer is we've got to fix the cortisol and balance it first before you even look at all of those other things. Because quite often balancing out the cortisol will have such positive effects on everything else. So I think one of my main messages is for women to really get that and embrace it. And I don't love the word self-care, but really it is about self-care and prioritizing what do I need to do to get my cortisol, my stress under control so I feel good.
So tell us a bit more, since you're an expert around cortisol. Is there any time in our life that we have it balanced? And then how do we create that within our body? Like, how can we get more of it?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? For sure. I think we're familiar with what we call the normal cortisol curve, which I'm sure when we are young, we have a normal cortisol curve. And I think there's lots of times in our lives where our cortisol is balanced, meaning cortisol is not bad. We need cortisol. So it comes up in the morning, gives us energy. It's that joie de vivre, get us out of bed, feeling good. Cortisol rises during the day, again, keeps our energy levels going. And then it's supposed to come down at the end of the day and be very low at night while we're supposed to sleep. What happens in many of us is the cortisol is up here all the time. It's not coming down. And so consequently, for example, a lot of women get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, but our adrenal glands, which is making all this cortisol, are busy churning out cortisol at night and they sit on top of our kidneys. And so there's a reason for that. So I think once people start putting kind of two and two together, you realize that it's one of those things that's really important. And have you ever heard the term wired but tired? It's very descriptive, actually, and I think we've all felt that. But it really is describing that feeling when the cortisol is too high. You're exhausted, you're tired, but you just can't let go. Your brain is going, your body's going. So I think the ill effects of it are really a problem. And that was really my hormone story. I started with a PMS-y thing that hit me when I was about 39 out of the blue. And it's funny now, honestly, Debbie, it was not funny at the time. I remember on the phone, a friend canceled something and I started to cry. And I'm not a big crier. I was like almost hysterical. It's like, who am I? What happened to me? And that was more, I'm going to say, progesterone, but I also realized that it was my stress. Once I started introducing some better techniques, supplements to manage the cortisol, I felt like a new person. I couldn't believe the difference. It was that significant. It doesn't take away the stressors. They're there. But our ability to cope is much better when our cortisol is in balance.
I was really aware in my 20s. And then once I had my children, my menstrual cycle was like crazy. Like I remember having to pull over one time. I was driving and I couldn't even drive. I was in so much pain. And then I used to make a pact with myself and say, okay, I cannot quit my job, divorce my husband, and relationships with my parents.
At least not yet.
On that 1 week.
That's right.
Like leading up to it, because I would get like furious and angry because all the things were happening during that time. But once my period stopped, I didn't really understand what this whole new way of being into my fees and all this loss, like you're talking about how cortisol plays such a big part in our overall well-being.
Yeah, and it really does. And to dial it even further down about the cortisol, Debbie, is that our adrenal glands, when we're in our 50s and we've hit menopause, our ovaries, they're not really making any hormones anymore. But our bodies really are quite miraculous in that our adrenals do kick in, not to near the extent that we're used to before we're menopausal. But our adrenals are designed to help make some progesterone, some testosterone, some estrogen. If you think about it, if they're very busy making cortisol all the time, they can't keep up. They can't make all those other hormones. So that's one of the main reasons why I say cortisol is a foundation hormone, meaning it affects everything else. So you can continue to have similar symptoms that you may have had in perimenopause or even when you were PMSing in that week because your body's not making that progesterone, which is the hormone of kind of calm and soothing and about our mood and sleep. So now you're not even getting a little bit of progesterone. You're in trouble.
Right. Anyone listening to you is going to be like, that lady's got it all together. And you've had quite the road to get to today. Can you share a little bit about your background and how I think I saw in your bio, you were a nurse, right? And then you decided to go back to school as a mature student, right? And that's why you are now a psychotherapist.
I loved being a nurse. I worked in emergency departments. When I say it's exciting, I know that sounds callous. I don't mean it that way, but it was because it's constantly changing. You have to learn how to triage. You have to really make priorities are such a big deal. And I'm a very calm person, so I actually really thrived in that environment, particularly recognized I wanted to work with the families who are so upset and emerge and needed answers and needed sometimes just a calm voice. And so I have 3 kids and I had them very close together, 18 months apart. And life was crazy. All 3, 18 months apart. 1, 2, 3. Now there's advantages to that. They all get along so well and they knew each other's friends and still do and all of that. But it was crazy, and I won't deny that. So I was still working, and it was just too much. It was just too much. By the time I even explained to a caregiver how to look after the 3 kids who were so little, it's just like, I got to do this myself. Yeah. And yeah, I got to do that. Yeah. And by then I was working in Toronto at Women's College Hospital. And as a registered nurse there, we had a lot of autonomy. I was starting to do birth control counseling and sexuality counseling and taking courses. And I really liked the counseling aspect of it. And so when I decided to stay home with my kids for a few years, I went back to school. I loved to learn. And I also, frankly, had to stay sane. And I was concerned that if I was home all the time with these 3 babies, I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And some of your listeners may laugh, but I'm not one to stay up late. So I would work on my papers and my essays and whatever projects I had to do. Then I would set my alarm for 3 a.m., have a cup of coffee. The house was quiet. I would finish writing a paper and I would have it on my professor's desk at 9 o'clock in the morning, having written it between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. And it worked. It really worked. And I loved back at school learning to be a therapist. It was a general program. I tailored it to be more sexuality and relationships because that was my interest. It still is. But I loved it. I just loved the learning and the whole psychology aspect of it. So it was great. And then when I graduated, there I was, I still had young children and I felt really proud of myself, to be honest. It felt like a real accomplishment.
Absolutely. Yeah, you should be proud. I'm sure anyone listening is, wow, that is like 3 a.m. That's dedication. That's persistence. And I hear more people that are in this personal development realm. And I just read this gentleman I follow on social media, and he goes to bed at 8 p.m. every day and is up at 3. And that's his routine.
Yeah.
And that's the 7 hours.
Yes. And I think to take it back to cortisol a little bit, Debbie, is every body is different. And so everybody needs to find out what is their rhythm. What works best for me. I know, for example, if I am in bed reading my novel, which I love to read a novel before bed. It's one of the things I reintroduced when I wanted to make sure that I wasn't so stressed out all the time. If I'm in my bed by 10 and I read for half an hour and my lights are out, say 10:30-ish, I'm just a better person the next day. But I often do stay up till 11 or 11:30 and I pay the price. So I think we all have to find out what makes me feel great when I wake up in the morning. And for some people, a lot of women do struggle because of the cortisol and sleep issues. They're actually getting their best sleep between kind of 5 a.m. and maybe 8 in the morning. And if that's what you need to do for now, then that's what you should do. I think we all deserve to get up and feel on top of the world and have energy and all of that.
That's a really good point. You get into a certain thought pattern like, oh, this is what always worked for me, so this is what I still need to do. Maybe you're still having the same sleep routine that you had in your 20s, and now you're right. I do get my best sleep. If I wake up even at 3 or 4, I can go back to sleep, and I usually have to be woken up at 6:30 or 7. And where it feels like in the middle of the night, like midnight, I'm very light sleeping then. Like I'm woken up very easily. That's really interesting. I hadn't ever thought about what our body needs for sleep and how we sleep changes as we mature as well.
It does. Your sleep pattern tells me that you're probably getting more of your REM sleep and a little bit more of your deep sleep in the early morning hours, because that's why you're out so much. Those two components are what we call our restorative sleep. The more REM sleep and the more deep sleep that we can get under our belt in our 8 hours, the better we're going to feel. And there's different ways of promoting that. Some people do use sleep sprays or melatonin, or again, I'm a huge proponent. I will put this out there of magnesium glycinate, readily available. I think it's a game changer for most men and women. It's very calming, great for muscles, really can help promote a deeper, better, more restorative sleep. So if you take 2 of them at bedtime, for a lot of people, that does the trick.
I need to note that because I do have trouble falling asleep. I love this conversation. I hadn't realized until I was just talking to you about sleep shame.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, like, I'm not the 8 p.m. till 3 a.m. kind of girl. And I know there's other people that do that and they're up early going to the gym, and I used to, but it has changed. And it's just interesting that I've been, even as I just realized talking to you, that I've been beating myself up. Like I shouldn't need to be woken up at 7, but I feel like I've been carrying a little shame around that.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because as I think about it, listening to you, I have a whole group of both people I follow, but also colleagues who are of the mind of getting up at 5 a.m. every day. And they follow this whole routine of meditation and journaling. And then they've got to the gym and they follow this very regimented program. Again, good for them if it works for them. But I was feeling really guilty. I hadn't thought about the shame piece, but maybe I'm like, I should be doing that. Why don't I get up at 5 a.m.? I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. I don't feel good at 5 a.m. It's not going to work for me.
So good. There we go. We just created, I think, this new space around sleep and around how individualized it is, and to listen to your body. I'm sure that's a message that you give to your clients around sexuality as well. Can you talk a bit about that? I don't even know what questions to ask, but maybe I'll just ask, what do you see most often as concerns, like individuals, as women in the age that, like, I'm 50 and up, that women are finding with around sexuality, around their own personal sexuality?
It's such a good question, Debbie, and it's one we don't talk about enough. We're talking in our society more about sex, but we don't really talk about the nitty-gritty and what's really happening in the intimacy piece. I think for many women, what happens in perimenopause is they really lose their libidos. They lose their sex drive. Their sense of desire for many just goes. And in part, that's cortisol. In part, that's estrogen, testosterone. It's mostly hormonal. They may have been in long marriages or long relationships. But I think there's a real loss of that. And I think, frankly, they're left with the feeling of, I don't know what to do. And there's so much stuff out there, and it is truly very confusing. And so I think a lot of women are left with, I don't know what to do. It's just gone. And many of their friends are feeling the same way. They're hearing about that from other stuff on social media. So I think a lot of women I think the word that comes to my mind is resigned that this is the way, it's the new normal. And I'm a real believer that intimacy is the glue that holds people together. I know on a logical level, we know what's the difference between roommates and lovers. Roommates and it's intimacy, it's sexual intimacy. So my message around that, Debbie, is very much for us to keep an open mind and think of sexuality on a continuum. Sex is not intercourse. It's not just anything. It's a very broad definition of what brings you pleasure. And my hope for women is don't give up. Things do settle down, and sex for many women in their 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond can be very passionate and be better than ever before. But I think we're resigned that that piece of us is over. And so that's really what I hope. I hope women can learn to change that. And have hope.
Absolutely. This is why we're so aligned, I believe, in our values. And that's my company is Dare to Declare, and creating this vision for what's possible. And this isn't just, in fact, most women I serve are in their 50s. And you're just getting started, my friend. Let's create this gorgeous vision for your self-care, for your mental health, your personal health, your physical health, your sexuality, your relationships. What is it that you really want?
Exactly. And your message, I love your message, Debbie. That's when we first met, and that's why I was so drawn to you. But your whole thing of, which is vision, which is also hope, which is, I know you talk about the law of attraction and manifesting, but belief that of what is possible and recognizing that possibilities are everywhere. I have a saying that I quote a lot, which is be your own best health advocate, but it really is be your own best advocate. Have that vision that you can create the life that you want, and it's never too late, ever. The more I've actually followed you, I'll tell you on social media and see some of the things that you post and what you do. I've been all over lately, like good karma, I call it, but law of attraction, good things are just happening. And I love that, but it's because I believe they will.
Exactly. Yeah. Oprah has a quote that says, you don't become what you want, you become what you believe.
Hey.
And that's tied into Jamie Kern-Lima's book around worthy. What do you believe that you are worthy of? I would highly recommend that book as well.
I don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie was a Denny's waitress, and she created a cosmetic company. She is a plus size girl. And so I just say that because typically in cosmetics, she doesn't look maybe perhaps like everybody else that was selling cosmetics. She had so many no's, and she ended up selling her company. It's called It Cosmetics to L'Oreal. And she's one of the—
Yes, I have heard of that.
Yeah. So her book Worthy is really great. And I think it really fits into what we're talking about here today around feeling worthy of having a beautiful sexual relationship with my partner. And I am worthy of being stress-free and also getting a good night's sleep. One of the things that you and I talked about that we have in common as well is you have a group called Fab Five.
Oh, and you've got your diamonds?
I have my diamonds. That's right.
I know.
Yeah, so it's a bit about Fab Five and how important that is as a woman, because I certainly can tell you how important my diamonds are to me.
It is. I want to digress just for a moment because I'm a big fan of Esther Perel. I'm sure you probably know who she is. She's the most prominent quoted couple psychotherapist of all time. She's wonderful, brilliant. Look her up if you haven't listened to any of her many podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. But she talks about how never before, except for right now, everything from our one primary partner. We expect them to be confidant, lover, provider, help with kids, do housework, meet all my needs, basically. So it used to be, we call it the village. We knew we had our friends, we had our work colleagues, but we've put tremendous onus and pressure on that one primary relationship that it has to fulfill everything. And that's simply not possible, which is one of the reasons why so many people they're unhappy within their relationship, because they're feeling like they're not getting everything. So roll forward, my immediate friend group, and I was just actually at a dinner with the Fab Five yesterday, and your diamond. So I play a lot of tennis, and out of my larger group of friends, I have my sister and 3 others. I just called them the Fab Five in my text messaging for me.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yes, that was just so I could identify that this is a group text I just put Fab Five. So one night, just about a year ago, we were out for dinner. And I said, I don't think I ever told you all. I call you the Fab Five. They loved it. We still play lots of tennis. The Fab Five gets together regularly for dinners. And we need that because women are, I'm not going to say more relational than men, but typically, I'm stereotyping, we are very relational. And I think that value in female relationships where we talk and we share things and we feel that we're really safe, heard, and understood. It also takes some of the pressure off our primary love relationship, because that person can't be everything. Tell me a little bit more about your diamonds.
Yeah, and you're just opening my mind to such amazing thoughts around this idea of expectations that we have on our partner to be all. And I remember when my kids, so I had 3 under 3 because I have a set of twins. So my twins were born when my 3-year-old. Yeah, I was unhappy because I didn't have these diamonds. So he would come home and I would be like wanting to share the day, and I just wanted adult conversation.
Yes, without a baby on your hip.
I'm going to be my girlfriend. And it's interesting. I'm doing a mastermind in a few weeks, and I'm talking about the importance of social support to our overall well-being and making adult friends. And that was actually, and we keep dropping books here, but when I was in the Dominican, I was reading Mel Robbins' newest book called Let Them. And she also talks about Let Me. And she has a whole chapter about adult friendship and the importance of that, but how there needs to be this looseness, that we hold it loosely, that people have seasons within our life. And I have these diamonds in my life. They are a group of 7 women, and there is one woman that pulled us all together. So she is connected to all of us, but now we're interconnected. We did lose one of our very good friends to cancer a few years ago. And so when you have situations like that, it's so beautiful to have this group that can rally around and bring meals. And her husband, the widow, he still is included when we have our diamonds, but with the spouses still comes. So they're during the tough times, but also to be your biggest cheerleader. And I think that's really important too, is women celebrating other women.
Yes.
But it's not in a business context. They have nothing to do with my business, but they are my dear friends who, are just cheering for me as Debbie from the block, right?
That's great. They want you to win when you want them to at life. And I think it's also, again, I think we want that in our primary love relationship. But when you either don't have a relationship or it's not as good for right now as you want, it's really lovely to know that people right around you have your back. And I like that thing of safe, heard, and understood. To be known, which I think when you have a good group of friends, that's part of it. You're known. And I will say in my psychotherapy practice, certainly what you had mentioned, that whole idea of, am I worthy? Am I worthy of taking the time out for self-care? Am I worthy? Sometimes the message is not, you're not actually saying to yourself, am I worthy? But the underneath thing, the underneath voice or that inner voice is saying that. Should I be taking a night off to have dinner again with my friends? Should I say I've had enough for the day and I am going to get into bed at 9:30 and read my book? There is an element of worthiness, I think, that women battle. And I think having these friend groups and community lift us up. And I think we need that. And there's nothing wrong with it.
For sure. I think we get stuck in our own mind around who we are, and having a friend group like that can help reflect back our best qualities and help remind us of our worth. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely, that is true. Yeah, because that's part of the lifting up. I think sometimes women have had a bad rap. There's the odd one who's very judgmental and judging other women, but I have not experienced, and it sounds like you haven't either. Most women are not that way. They do lift one another up and they're supportive. And
And I believe the law of attraction works as well with the friendship, that you're going to receive what you put out. So by putting out karma, when you're putting out that positive energy, you're actually not going to attract those that are full of drama, because they're going to be like,
so true.
sit here in the sunshine. I can't even handle your positivity. I've actually had people say that, and I'm like, well, you're not my person, and that's okay. But
I have to just interrupt. I was in a not great relationship quite a while ago, and he actually said to me, "You're too happy."
wow.
And I went, "Would you prefer the alternative?"
Right. As a therapist, you're like, I just want to dig into that, but no.
He's not around anymore. That's all.
No. I love your spontaneity. I heard you just went on a vacation, which was just lovely. And so I'm sure spontaneity also plays into this idea of romance and intimacy and relationships. Is there any, as we close out here, words of wisdom, advice that you can provide around the idea of reducing stress, managing our sleep, and really embracing our sexuality?
I think radical self-acceptance, like really accepting you are where you are, and it is within your power to move to a better place if that's where you feel you need to go. I think it really is about feeling empowered, that indeed you are your own best health advocate. And I think we can really look after ourselves. I firmly believe in the power of what we can accomplish and being empowered and believing that, to your point of manifesting. I think I use the Isagenix products. I use them quite often in hormone health resets. I call them, in a very specific ways that help balance the cortisol, using adaptogens, some protein pacing, a little detoxing can really help, because to circle back to finish, it is coming back to energy. So it's that energy that we exude and put out to the world, but it is also physical energy. When you get up in the morning and you don't feel good because you haven't slept and your energy is a really low level, it's pretty hard to present your best self and to make good choices for yourself. As opposed to when you wake up and you have energy because you've supported yourself with either it's the better nutrition, cortisol being balanced. That energy is what psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you're putting out into the world. And that's where I think it comes back. So I think it's truly about believing that it's possible.
I love that connection to energy, because that's what we talked about. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and plugging into that sleep time and getting the most optimal sleep. And by reducing the stress, getting the optimal sleep, you're going to then raise the vibration. And what we know is when your vibration's high, you are just a magnet to attract what it is that you really desire. And so it comes full circle for sure. Thank you for that. So you talked about some supplements, you talked about some things. How can people get a hold of you to learn more, to connect with you?
The best way, Debbie, is really just at my website, which is my name, CamilleLawson.com. There's a form there where you can put in your name. I can reach out to you and have a consult, complimentary, find out what's going on. If you want to book me for counseling or a coaching session, you can do that on the website as well. And my key Isagenix products that I love, as well as I love another product for vaginal dryness, not Isagenix, it works miracles. So all of that is on my website.
Wonderful. I'm sure that anyone's tuned in today is so glad that they did, because there was like so much value here. And like I said, it was like you're sitting on the bed in your pajamas and listening to girls talk, which is awesome. And we just need more of this. So thank you so much for sharing so openly and generously with the listener. And for those that are listening, take care of you and dare to declare.
Thanks, Debbie.
Today, we've delved into the realm of manifesting giants, exploring the power of declaring our desires to the universe with unapologetic boldness. But before we bid adieu, I have a little something special to share with all of you dreamers out there. Introducing the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and online DIY Vision Board course, your ticket to manifesting greatness in style. Picture this: flipping through pages filled with inspiring images, empowering quotes, and step-by-step guides to help you create the vision board of your dreams. Whether you're yearning for that spacious condo with a view, or a love that sets your soul on fire, our magazine is here to guide you every step of the way. Dive deep into the art of manifesting with our exclusive online DIY Vision Board course. led by manifesting expert, yes, yours truly, and seasoned dreamers. This course will teach you the ins and outs of creating a vision board that speaks to your heart and soul. So what are you waiting for? Join the ranks of the manifesting giants and dare to declare your wildest dreams to the universe. Head over to our website, DebbiSluys.com, and grab your copy of the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine and enroll in our online DIY Vision Board course today. Until next time, keep dreaming big and daring to declare, because in the world of manifesting, the sky's the limit.